Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to A Beginner's Guide. I am Sylphin. In this guide we are taking a look at the default deck, the strategies, and the skills involved in successfully playing Richter. Before we get in game, we need to talk about his deck, just so that you know what you are building and in what order. Richter is a tank and a support, so you need to build him with a health potion, a mana potion, and a scout sword with your very first 3 CP. After that, you need to be able to support your ranger that you are with as much as possible, so our next card is the Circlet of Health. What it does, gives us 2.8 health regen to yourself and nearby allies, so that you are able to keep them healthy. Although we aren't getting these upgrades, we are saving them for later. The next card you get is your Lord's Ward. This Lord's Ward replaces your Scout's Ward, and once again, we do not get these upgrades just yet. We save them for later. What this ward does is give us special wards that enter the Shadow Plane and can see the Shadow Plane, so are much more powerful than that Scout's Ward. Our next card here is the Elder Mage Amulet that gives us quite a bit of health. This health is going to help us to absorb damage that would otherwise go to our ranger, thus protecting them. This does have a little bit of damage, which will certainly help us being useful when we do engage the enemy. At this point, it depends on your game. It depends. If you are behind, if the enemy is doing a lot of damage and you simply can't stay alive, then we go into our Tempered Plate and Tuned Barrier. What this gives us is health and armor against the basic abilities and abilities in order to better keep us alive. If you are ahead, however, and you don't necessarily need that sustain, go for the Pendulum of Lords first. What this does is give us more mana regen, more health, and more mana, so that we can use our abilities, be a better tank, and better support our friendly team to do that damage. At this point, you have been upgrading a lot of cards: Tempered Plate, Tune Barrier, and the Pendulum of Lords. If at any point you are running out of mana frequently, feel free to go back to your Circlet of Health and upgrade that mana. I would preferably want to actually put it here in this Lord's Ward, because we're actually going to replace our Circlet of Health at the very end. Once you have your Lord's Ward into the Elder Mage Amulet, into either the Pendulum of Lords and then Tempered Plate and Tune Barrier, or Tempered Plate, Tune Barrier, and then Pendulum of Lords, then we finish off the build with a Chronomancer Disc that replaces our Circlet of Health. The passive here in the late game simply doesn't do very much, so it's pretty much useless. We get rid of it and instead get this Chronomancer Disc. That 10% cooldown reduction will mean we will be able to use our abilities just a little bit more, but since his abilities are monstrous, that is what we want. A little bit of damage there in the late game, because we are a little bit tanky, will go a long way in maybe securing some kills and turning the tide of battle in our favor. To recap, we start with a health potion, mana potion, and Scout's Ward. Next, we get into the Circlet of Health with no upgrades. Then we get the Lord's Ward to replace our Scout's Ward, and then go into the Elder Mage Amulet for some of that health and a little bit of damage. After the Elder Mage Amulet, you need to see where you're at. If you are ahead, go into the Pendulum of Lords. If you're behind, go into your Tempered Plate and Tune Barrier, and then the Pendulum of Lords. After that Pendulum of Lords, we get our Chronomancer Disc to replace our Circlet of Health that we may or may not have upgraded along the way. We finish the Lord's Ward's upgrades very last, because it has no fully upgraded bonus, so there's no point in sinking CP into that if we can. That is the build, ladies and gentlemen. That is what I recommend you build in terms of Richter. It's a little bit different from what Epic recommends, because I think, in my experience, this is what makes Richter awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, why exactly do we go for that early health, mana, and Scout's Ward? Well, one simple reason: we are a support. As a tank support, we need to protect our ranger here, which, as you can see, is is our Twin Blast here, and we simply need to protect him, make sure that he stays alive. We need to stay alive as well, so that is why we need that health and mana potion to just keep our mana and our health topped up. What else we need to do is use our Scout Sword. What the Scout Sword will do is give us vision of a particular area around the map. And we need to grant our team vision so that we can see people coming around and trying to gank us. And we are pushing this lane apart. A great spot for a ward, ladies and gentlemen, is right beyond this fog wall right here. That is the perfect spot for a ward, as we can see anybody trying to come through that fog wall be sneaky and try to make something happen. It's a very powerful spot for a ward, and we can use that to our advantage. So in this early game, that's what we do. We protect our ranger here in the right lane. Make sure that nobody can attack him. We body block people, get in their way to get to him, and protect him with the very first ability that we get, Whiplash. It pulls the enemy towards us, but only has an 850 range. As you can see, it doesn't even reach this Greystone, who happens to be right there. Now, what else we can do is get our right-click, Shock Therapy, as our second ability. What does it do? It actually grants us a little bit more damage on our basic attack, and also silences and, more importantly, slows the enemy down so that they can't follow after our Twin Blast here and try to attack him. That is definitely the second ability that you get, followed by the third ability, which is Electrocute. Normally, I would say not to get Electrocute, actually upgrade your Whiplash, but because this early in Monolith we do so much damage now, I think that's actually probably what we should get. Another great space for a ward is actually just down right in between this gold buff here and this fog wall. I love to place a ward right here along these steps so that they can see anybody that's kind of coming up here or trying to come up here and gank our Greystone. As you can see, or our Twin Blast, correction. As you can see, this Greystone is trying to do his thing, and we used our combination there to great effect. Our Whiplash, our pull into our right click, our Shock Therapy that silences and slows them down so that we can kill him easy. Now this Twin Blast here is definitely looking for his gold buff, which gives him increased card power on hit. So we definitely need to take at least a few hits here, and hopefully he can kill him. But no, I don't have enough health. I have to go back and get that gold buff another time. Our next card here is the Circlet of Health over in the 6th slot. That is going to passively give us and our allies health, which, as you can see, is definitely very good. Come over here, make sure that's on manual so that you can forego what they recommend and actually get the Lord's Ward here instead of your Scout's Ward. Again, those are your upgraded wards that will see into the shadow plane and also become invisible so that the enemy can't kill them. So once you have upgraded all of your abilities and have upgraded your Whiplash twice here, then we can get our Skewer at level 5. This ultimate is fantastic for Richter and absolutely enables him to do a lot. Now, he is a control monster. You want to control the enemy team so that somebody like your Twin Blast can apply that damage and kill the enemy. What Skewer does is it deals 200 ability damage, 50% at the start of the animation and then 50% at the end of the animation, and also stuns them, more importantly, for 1.5 seconds. It is a long time, and it absolutely is fantastic for securing kills on enemies, interrupting abilities, and just controlling the enemy so that they can't do anything. The next cards that, again, we want to get after the Circlet of Health and our Lord's Ward is some health. Health at this point is better than the armor that you get from the tempered plate and tuned barrier, just how the math works. So here we go, putting that in our 8th slot and getting some health and health first before that strike. The strike is just kind of a little bit of a helpful thing, not necessarily something that is necessary. In terms of upgrade priority, you always want to upgrade your ultimate first, followed by your whiplash, and then your shock therapy. Always upgrade your ultimate first before anything else, followed by your pull, and then your silence. That is what's going to make it happen. So here we go. I'm going to use my big combo there, the big Richter combo. Pull into your skewer. Depending on the hero, depending on exactly kind of the hero that you are trying to control, you might want to use your whiplash, your pull, into your shock therapy to silence them, just to give you enough time to then use your ultimate skewer afterwards. You can also, in fact, save your skewer for a better time when there are multiple enemies that you can hit. Remember, it is a cone in front of you, so you can hit multiple enemies with the ability. Once you get enough card power, return back, get that strike, and at this point we need to determine if we are ahead or if we are behind. We are definitely ahead of the enemy team here, being bots, and so we are going to next go into this Pendulum of Lords. I'm not necessarily having too much issue with mana, so I'm not going to choose to upgrade it, instead just saving my CP for this Pendulum of Lords. So it does take some time getting used to his pull. It is a very much a skill shot that you need to practice with in order to best utilize the ability. So landing that hook is very, very important. As you can see, not able to pull that howitzer, make anything happen. But here I think I should be able to, unless he doesn't choose to go back and the spell isn't trying to attack him. So that's basically kind of the strategy. Can I land my hook? When can I do it at an appropriate time that enables my team to apply that damage onto the enemy? You are a monstrous support for your damage dealers, able to control the enemy, keep them in place so that they can apply the damage. You are a support. You're almost a facilitator. You facilitate their damage on the enemy team. And that's probably why I think Richter is my most favorite tank. Because we are ahead, we are going ahead, getting this Pendulum of Lords. Mana regen enable us to use our abilities more for more of them, and that health, and again that mana regen and mana to help us there. And an advanced spark for that mana regen and go on our way. So here I'm going to try to facilitate my Greystone. We're going to try to get him to do his thing. I'm going to choose to slow down the steal now and then try to pull him back so my Greystone here can finish him off just like that. Thinking more about others than you are about yourself. How can you best use your abilities to make sure that that your friendly team here can do damage? Just so happens we do a fair amount of damage as well. Richter really scales well with damage, so the little bit that we did get there on the Amulet of the Veteran, the Elder Mage Amulet, sorry, we can of course use that quite well. Now that we are in the mid-game, don't be afraid to discard your health and or mana potion if necessary. I'm choosing to discard my health potion in order to get this last bit of mana regen to finish off this Pendulum of Lords. Always try to be with your team. Being alone as Richter, especially with this sort of a support tank focused build, is not good. You need to stay with your team so that you can do your thing here and disrupt the enemy. So now is my turn here to disrupt this steal. Didn't look like my pull there worked, but that silence and slow and helped a little bit secure that kill. always wanting to try to support your team, stay with your team, especially your carry, your ranger there with Twin Blast all the way there, all by himself on the right side. He chose to go off by himself. Definitely try to support your team as much as possible. Here I can see this this howitzer is harassing my Grux, so I'm gonna go try to control him as much as possible. But looks like I am not getting as much help, so I have to retreat myself. The next cards here are our Tempered Plate and our Toon Barrier. Now those you have to take a special consideration into account. You need to take a look at the enemy team. You need to take a look at what kind of damage they deal. Grim does a lot of basic damage, Howitzer does a lot of ability, Greystone basic, Steel basic, and Rampage basic. They do a lot of basic damage on the enemy team, so we need to do basic armor. That's our Tempered Plate here, so we're going to do this one first and then go into the other. With 4 card power here, go the health and the guard, so we're not wasting any. And as long as you follow these guides, I am sure you will go to victory. So, in quick recap, make sure that you always go back to base quickly and as frequently as may be possible, and spend those card points accordingly. Getting goes 2 and 2 if you have 4 CP, trying not to waste as much. Follow the steps that I mentioned here for that default deck. I think that is the best source. That is the best way to use that default deck. You are a support tank. You facilitate the damage that your friendly team does onto the enemy through your controlling abilities. Pull enemies into a unfavorable position and root them in place with your ultimate, your skewer, or simply slow them and stun them if they're trying to get away with a key ability with your right click. You kind of dictate who dies. If you get a fantastic pull right at the right time to start an engagement, do it, because you can dictate who dies, control them, nuke down that individual, and there is your advantage over the enemy team. Richter is a beast, and I'm sure that with a little bit of practice, especially with his pull, you would become fantastic. Please like this video if you liked it, dislike it if you disliked it, share it with the community, and of course, subscribe. If you found this useful, if you simply liked the content, please subscribe so I can do it for you in the future. Till next time, like always, stay optimistic and positive.